in the era of social media where people are always looking for the novel, anything out there that seems new and can be deemed as functional seems like something that they want to dive into. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Gym Talk. My name is Cameron. I have here...
My name is Danny Lou.
Danny Lou, baby. Today, we're going to talk about our overrated versus underrated perspectives on a specific topic. Today is functional fitness.
Functional fitness, baby.
Danny comes from a more bodybuilding background. I come from a more strength training, powerlifting background. And functional fitness, I guess you could see, is like this middle of the run type of field within the fitness industry. It's gained a lot of popularity over the last few years, over the last like maybe 20 years or so.
Honestly, I would say it might even go back further to like the 70s when they used to have those infomercials online. The girls and like they're dancing with the light dumbbells. They call that functional.
Did they call that
it's
functional?
Almost, I don't know. It's almost an umbrella term. I find that people use it for a lot of different stuff in your world and mine. They call it functional, like whatever that even means. It's a very vague, undefined term, if I'm being honest.
It is a vague umbrella term that people like to use to cover, like, I don't know, things that people do on a daily basis, movements that people do on a daily basis, but it's gone from something like that to a little bit more circus routine type tricks. Like, you see some pretty obscure things online, and I think that in the era of social media where people are always looking for the novel, anything out there that seems new and can be deemed as functional seems like something that they want to dive into. Like, oh, I've never seen that before. I would definitely want to do that exercise. But just because you call it functional doesn't mean it's effective.
Not necessarily. And I think you and I would agree on that fact. There's a couple of ways we can go about doing this. So the first thing I would like to do is, how would you define functional fitness in today's age and world and climate that we're in? And then the second thing I would like to cover in greater detail and in depth is then most bang for your buck. Is it effective? Could you be doing anything else? That's basically the two ways we can separate this. And then at the end of it, on the final finale, we'll come to our conclusion: over or underrated. Okay, I agree. I agree with that setup. Perfect. Let's do it. So how would we define functional fitness? I think in today's day, a lot of people define functional almost as something that you don't even do.
Yes.
Like, you'll see it's called a dragon pistol squat. Is that what it's called? Where you put your leg behind and you go down a
Yeah.
Like, people call that functional.
Do people call that functional?
I've seen people call it functional. It's like calisthenics.
Smokes.
So like people I've seen people that do like progressions of like how to do a dragon pistol squat. They'll show you like, do this one, and then once you match this one, do this one, and once you match this one, do this one. And they call this like functional training. How is that functional? When am I ever gonna bend down with my leg behind me and do a single pistol squat like that? So I'm confused where this term functional even like comes from, because I find general strength and muscle hypertrophy to be much more functional for literally everybody than any of the crazy, wacky move your body in different types of way stuff. Because I mean, you even look at people, I think it's over the age of, I believe it's like 65, when they compared, actually it was 70, a 70-year-old runner to a 70-year-old stationary, immobile person that just sits on the couch all day. And they show like the muscles in these two different individuals, and one looks the same as a 35-year-old runner, is the 7-year-old runner who runs. And then the sedentary person, their muscle mass, and compared to their fat mass, their MRI scans looks just abysmal. And that person's couch ridden; they can't get up without help. So it's like, what's actually more functional? Probably doing something that's hard.
So to go back, I'm gonna backpedal a little bit. I want to go to the dragon pistol squat thing, and I think if I were to give some sort of clarity to that and why somebody would say that's functional, it's because it demonstrates the highest level of strength and mobility.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree.
That could be the reason why somebody would say that that's functional, but is it necessary? Mm-hmm. Are there other ways to assess if you have a good enough amount of mobility? And like you and I know, Cheyenne, who is a doctor in physical therapy, he could just simply take you through a basic assessment of your ankles, knees, hips, back, whatever, and determine, hey, you have a sufficient amount of ankle dorsiflexion, hip mobility, etc. And then we could go, yeah, I would say that's functional. But to go like, oh, here are the progressions to get to this dragon pistol squat. Is that even necessary? Sure, it can display a high level of proficiency in something like that, strength, coordination, etc. But I think there's other things that you could do to quantify whether or not you are in the ideal level of strength and mobility. And I don't know if that is even necessary. So in what you're saying, today's day and age of what the definition of functional fitness is it the highest level of strength and mobility? For me, what would be functional is, do you get an ideal range of these things and strength, coordination, etc., that would lead to you having a higher quality of life? I would say is a better definition of functional training. Along with that, in strength, like, can you deadlift? The deadlift is a very, very, very functional exercise. People pick stuff up and set it down all the time. And if you know how to do that properly, embrace properly, and you've got good glute strength and mobility, that's a good exercise. Squatting is also very, very functional. And these things don't need to get too crazy. There are some ways you can add some variety to them, but they don't need to be too wild. You know, do we get to the extreme limits when we're doing an overhead dumbbell squat? Yeah. But do I need to do that?
Is that functional?
Is that functional? Not too often am I going to be doing something like that.
Yeah.
If ever. Does it display the highest degree of hip mobility, strength, and thoracic mobility, plus shoulder mobility? It does. Are those things required for you to live the most optimal functional human existence? At the same time, I don't think so.
Yeah. So I think we could agree on the fact that today's definition of functional has almost become, like you're saying, the highest degree of strength, mobility, and flexibility almost possible.
Yeah.
And it's these people performing just almost crazy, somewhat acrobatic, just crazy exercises that look pretty cool, and that, to be honest, most people won't even be able to do. If we were even to take a step back and think of something even more simple, like you brought up like a Bozu ball single leg deadlift or something, like something a little weird. Do you need that Bozu ball in there? Definitely not. You'd be better off, more bang for your buck, to do something that's actually going to benefit you on a day-to-day basis. Taking all joints through all ranges of motion, using strength training and preferably hypertrophy training. Combination of those, I think, is the most functional that a human could be. Yeah. All joints, all range of motion, with strength, with hypertrophy.
And I'll add one more to that, having good conditioning too.
Yeah, exactly.
Some good cardiovascular conditioning.
Yeah.
You can check all those boxes. And for me, I think you're going to get more benefit from it if you break those up into different phases or training blocks, like you and I are very familiar with. You can have a training block where you focus on strength, a training block where you focus on hypertrophy, a training block where you can focus on metabolic conditioning. And that's the beauty of training, is that we can mix those things up. We can integrate them into our training blocks as needed or as preferred, or as you'd like to do, or as anybody would like to do. But for me, I just think that you're going to get more benefit if you have those designated in each training block. But to throw them all together under the umbrella term of this is functional fitness, I think does a bit of a disservice to people and leads them to believe that they are going to be the most ideal version or the most functional version of themselves if they just kind of throw it in a mix mosh and do a Tabata or an AMRAP or ASAP or whatever, and they're like, man, I'm super, super functional right now.
Yeah. And so and then that leads us to another point that we can add into this. Another topic of discussion would be, why do people love functional fitness? Because I find it's very popular, if not the most popular way that people train in the gym typically is functional stuff, which I find very interesting. I usually see a mix of middle-aged to elderly people doing functional stuff, like in like the functional area. There's always a functional area of the gym, and then with a combination of some machine work, and then they call it a day. Maybe walking on a treadmill or riding on a bike while they're scrolling on their phone or something. So why do people want to do this functional fitness, I think you and I would agree the answer is typically because it's not as hard. And I don't mean not as hard as in like difficult, challenging. It is very challenging to stand on a stability pad with your eyes closed, touch your toes, and do a backflip. Okay, that's all very challenging. But is it challenging to the body and to the mind in terms of like strenuous? Not particularly. It's like a difficult coordination thing to do. You might get some practice with your working your inner ear and your lower balance a little bit. But I think what would be more functional and more productive would be for people to maintain their strength and muscle mass. I find that to be way more functional than practicing your balance per se.
Yeah. And I think you don't mean to belittle people at all by saying that functional fitness is not hard, but maybe it is a lower barrier of entry. Maybe it's just a little bit easier for somebody to see and go like, okay, I can do that. Like, I think people get, the deadlift has a really bad rap because people look at it and they go, oh man, I don't want to hurt my back. I can't tell you how many people that I've trained over the years who go, well, I don't want to hurt my back. That is like the number one thing that people do not want to do is injure their backs. And maybe doing functional fitness seems less threatening perhaps, because you'll see people who deadlift ungodly amounts of weight and like, oh my God,
Yeah.
like I don't want to hurt my back. Like, well, you don't understand that is a skill that person has developed over a long period of time that has led them to do what they can do. That doesn't mean that's where you're going to be, but it is beneficial for you to learn how to brace, hinge, and pull weight off the floor. That being said, I think maybe it is a little bit easier than building muscle or getting stronger. I think perhaps because those things take time, patience, and a lot of discipline. And they're not something that you're going to see a result right away. If you do something that is quote unquote functional and you're getting your heart rate up, there is a direct return on investment there. If I'm getting my heart rate up and I'm huffing and puffing and I do all these different exercises, I feel like I've accomplished a lot. But when somebody has come in and we're hinging and practicing the hinge and working on the deadlift and perfecting that exercise, it takes a long time. It's a skill that takes time to cultivate. The same thing with bodybuilding. Unless you're taking ridiculous exogenous hormones, or if you're a newbie lifter, you're not going to see the results very, very quickly. But if I run around the gym doing all these different types of exercises, I kind of feel like I'm doing something.
Well, that's where I disagree a little bit.
Okay.
As far as strength, I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying. That can be quite tedious for some people, for a lot of people, myself included. I don't like perfecting my technique more than anybody else. But as far as putting on muscle goes, I find that's an incredible workout. Your heart rate can get incredibly high. All you really need to do if someone wants to feel like they're working hard is just shorten the rest period.
Okay.
And you get your heart rate really high and you feel like you did something. Even so much so that like I've had people, and I'm not a fan of these type of clients, but some people like it, where they feel like the next day, like they're so sore. You know, those type of people that like they don't feel like they did something.
Yeah.
And I used to be that way when I first started because like you feel like you did something.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I beat the hell out of my body. That feels really good. But obviously we know now that that's not a suitable sign for muscle growth, but some people like it. So that being said, if their goal really is to feel like they did something, I don't think hypertrophy is a bad place to start, or muscle gain is a bad place to start. You'll feel like you did something. I promise that.
I completely agree with you.
So then that brings you to then why then do people want to do the functional fitness? I think you hit it on the head when you said it's a lower barrier to entry, which is totally fine and good. And I'm glad that people want to better themselves and want to do something to take control of their health. So they see this type of stuff online, or they see it on a magazine or whatever they do. And they get in the gym, they start moving. That really is the most important part. I'm not trying to belittle anyone or make it seem like it's not worth doing at all.
Yeah.
The most important part is that you took that first step. The next thing we can do is then say, okay, while you're here, how can we get you the most bang for your buck? How can we be the most effective with your time? And the issue then becomes we tackle that in a couple different ways. One, we need to make it so that you keep coming in. That is the first and foremost thing. What's going to help get you to keep coming in? You need to like what you're doing.
Absolutely.
That's the first. And if the only thing they enjoy doing is that functional fitness stuff, then by all means, c'est la vie. Do what you want to do.
Yeah.
But
we've talked about this before.
Yes.
Like adherence is a massive part of your success in training.
Exactly.
And if it's something that you enjoy doing that keeps you coming to the gym, awesome.
Yeah,
go for it.
Exactly. So if that's what gets you in the gym and that fires you up to get in there, then by all means do that. If you could humor me a little bit and we could start sprinkling in a little bit of strength, a little bit of muscle building, that would probably be best. And eventually maybe even switch to the most effective possible program you could be and get away from that functional style of training that people like to call it. I still do think that would wholeheartedly be best. But as a gateway exercise or a gateway style of training, I don't think it's bad in that sense at all. But I do think bar and pure enjoyment and adherence, I wouldn't typically recommend anybody to make that their main style of training. And I do think a lot of people would want to be spending their time effectively. Do you not? I find if I told someone, hey, you're in the gym here, yeah, you're in here an hour in a day. That's great. I'm glad you're moving, but you're probably only getting like a 5% boost to your lifestyle this way, where I could be getting you 50, 60, 70% boost to your lifestyle if we train this other kind of way. I think a lot of people would be like, oh, what do you got in the 60, 70% front?
Yeah.
I can show you.
Yeah.
And I do think that is more functional than light movement that people typically do when they come to the gym.
To me, seems a little bit more non-threatening than lifting heavy weight, because you can use a lighter load, you can do more repetitions with it. There's a self-limiting factor to it too, because if your heart rate starts to get up high enough, then you're just like, okay, I'm gonna set that down. I'm gonna do whatever. If the timer ends, then you're done with that exercise. And I don't know. I think that the non-threatening component of it is one of the reasons why people choose to do more functional exercise. You can, like we discussed, mobility and stuff being overrated or underrated. I think people can take a lighter load and use it to help increase their mobility and then also call it functional. That's what they'll do too. For me, intention is everything. And when I get into the gym, I have a clear intention on what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to improve my squat, my bench, my deadlift. On certain days, I'm trying to increase the amount of volume that I'm doing so I can promote more lean body mass. And so there's a direct focus and intention on what I'm trying to do. Functional training, unless you're specifically measuring your heart rate, like your lean body mass, your mobility or whatever, which I don't think a lot of people are doing. There's no direct measurement. It's hard to get a clearer idea of what your direction is and what your aim is. Just kind of going in and, well, I'm going to do these things and call it functional, and then that's it. And like you said, well, I can show you some other exercises that are more stable, and stability is a major component in building muscle and getting stronger. The more stable your foundation is, the stronger you're going to be, the more muscle you can put on your body. If you are compromising your stability for novelty or for functional training, you're probably going to be robbing yourself a little bit of something. But then again, it's like, is it getting people in the gym? Are they training more frequently? I can't hate on it if that is the thing that you're doing. My only recommendation would be do that for a certain period of time. Do that for a training block. This is my 6 to 8 week training block where I'm going to focus on functional training. And then go into a training block where you're going to do hypertrophy, where you're going to do strength training or cardiovascular training, whatever that may be. And that's, again, one of the beauties of training is that we can interchange these things throughout the course of our career in fitness or our journey in fitness. And it keeps things fresh, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I do also want to say as well to start wrapping this up that I don't mean to make this sound like my way or your way is the end all be all. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I have changed my mind on a lot of things. I will continue to change my mind on a lot of things. At the end of the day, I'm here to learn and better myself, and as is everyone else in the gym, hopefully. So I really want to get that point across that our way is not the only way to train.
Absolutely.
However you want to train and however gets you in there, you do that. But we just want to make sure that hopefully you can take something from this and start getting a little more bang for your buck in terms of what's going to be actually benefiting your life more and more.
Well, with that being said, is functional training overrated or underrated? Here's the binary that we have to come to a conclusion with.
Yeah, after all that discussion, all that in mind, I'm still going to lean on the side of overrated.
I'm gonna lean on the side
Heavily overrated.
I'm gonna lean on the side of overrated as well.
No.
No,
No caveat.
I'm
Okay.
not giving a caveat.
Okay.
I'm just saying like we discuss in all of our discussions where we look at the nuance of these things. I think we made some good points. I do think that it is overrated. I do think that it would be beneficial for people to explore different types of training modalities and whatnot, not to just be exclusive in one form or another. Like, I've learned a lot from you in the time that we've been working together. You've been doing the bodybuilding thing, and I was so stuck on strength is the only way and full range of motion and this and that. And you go, hey man, like you could do this and you could do, you can get partial range of motion. There's going to be benefit to it doing this. There, you could do the Smith machine. There's going to be a benefit to it. Then there's all sorts of stuff. And to be quite honest with you, it's been really fun. I've been doing a lot of different types of exercises. It's keeping my interest peaked when I'm training, and I can see that there's a direct benefit to what my pursuit is in getting stronger and how it's going to help me add muscle mass to my body. And I've seen where like some functional things are beneficial, but again, in the context of the way that the industry is with functional fitness, it's overrated. And with that, I mean, I think we're good.
I mean, that sounded like a caveat to me. But
I don't know, whatever.
But like I said, like at the end of the day, the whole point of this show here is to learn and grow and to better ourselves as individuals. You, me, them, everyone around. We're all going to be learning and growing together. That is the purpose of the show.
Exactly. We're learning and growing. We're not perfect. We don't have all the answers, but we would like to dive into the nuances of all these different topics and stuff and have just like a good conversation. It's at the end of the day, it's all fun. We're here for the benefit of everybody that is in pursuit of bettering themselves. And that's what we want to see, right?
Wholeheartedly agree.
All right. Everybody, if you enjoyed today's show, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Do you think functional fitness is overrated or underrated? We'd like to hear your thoughts. And stay tuned because we'll see you in the next episode.